When Idi Amin seized power in Uganda in January 1971, the world saw a spectacle. He was loud, theatrical, and unpredictable, a larger-than-life military figure who seemed more like a character from a movie than a head of state. But behind the booming laugh and the grand public displays, a much darker reality was taking shape. For Idi Amin, there was no line between public power and private life. The way he governed the nation was a direct reflection of how he ruled his own home. To understand Amin's reign of terror, you have to understand that for him, leadership was all about control, domination, and absolute personal authority. Power, in his mind, began at home. Over the course of his life, Idi Amin formally married at least 6 women. They came from different ethnic groups, different religions, and different social backgrounds. On the surface, this diversity might have looked like an attempt to unite a nation, or to project an image of a leader who was above old divisions. But in reality, it was about something else entirely. It was a demonstration of his power to take what he wanted, to be above convention, law, and restraint. Marriage for Amin was never a partnership. It was an assertion of his authority. He made all the decisions, and the relationships were built on a steep imbalance of power, not mutual respect. This was the exact same dynamic he applied to governing Uganda. Just as he ruled the country with no checks and balances, he ruled his household with an iron fist. His homes weren't sanctuaries, they were highly controlled environments. There was constant monitoring and intense scrutiny. The women closest to him, his wives, appeared to have status and privilege, but they lived under a constant cloud of insecurity. Their proximity to power made them targets. During Amin's rule, his personal influence reached into every corner of society. His attention was something to be feared. An advance from the president of Uganda wasn't a compliment. It was a command. It carried enormous pressure, because saying no was not an option. In this climate of fear, personal choice was an illusion. Relationships were not formed out of freedom, but were dictated by the suffocating power of the dictator. By inserting himself into the private lives of others, he sent a chilling message. No authority, no will, could rival his own. From the outside, it might have looked like Amin's wives were living a life of luxury. They were surrounded by security, driven in expensive cars, and recognized in public. But this kind of privilege, under an authoritarian system, is incredibly fragile. It can be taken away in an instant. Accounts from that time paint a terrifying picture of a household ruled by suspicion and unpredictability. Accusations flew constantly. Trust was a rare and dangerous commodity. A small misunderstanding, a misplaced word, or even just a rumor could be treated as a major threat, and the consequences could be severe. Some of his wives tried to create distance, either emotionally or physically, to protect themselves. Others learned to live quietly, to make themselves as small and unnoticeable as possible, but none of them could ever be certain of their safety. Then, in 1974, an event happened that sent shockwaves across Uganda and the world. One of Amin's wives, Amin, was found dead. The official explanations were confusing and contradictory. The circumstances surrounding her death were deeply suspicious and raised serious questions that the government refused to answer. Although the regime denied any wrongdoing, the incident solidified the public's deepest fears. It was a brutal confirmation of a painful truth. If even the president's own wife was not safe from violence, then no one was. Her death became a powerful symbol of the insecurity that gripped the entire nation. If those inside the palace walls were vulnerable, what chance did an ordinary citizen have? As Amin's government became more and more unstable, his paranoia grew. Mistrust spread like a virus, infecting both the state and his personal life. He saw enemies everywhere, in every shadow. His homes, once symbols of power, became extensions of his brutal security apparatus. They turned into places of interrogation, surveillance, and punishment. Marriage, which for most people symbolizes stability and trust, became a reflection of the complete breakdown of trust at the heart of his regime. Idi Amin worked tirelessly to cultivate an image of immense personal and physical strength. He wanted everyone to see him as fearless, dominant, and utterly superior to his enemies. Public displays of confidence and raw bravado were central to his persona. He would challenge foreign leaders, stage elaborate military parades, and boast about his own invincibility. But this image of strength was a performance, and it required constant reinforcement. His authority had to be demonstrated over and over again through control, through intimidation, and through spectacle. And his personal relationships, including his marriages, became just another stage for this performance. They were not spaces for genuine human connection, but tools to project his dominance. Adding another layer to this complex picture was religion. Amin publicly presented himself as a devout Muslim. He used religious ceremonies, language, and symbols to try and legitimize his rule. He built mosques and positioned himself as a spiritual leader. However, his actual conduct was a flagrant contradiction of the ethical principles he claimed to follow. For Amin, religion was not a moral compass. It was a political instrument, another tool to be used to manipulate public perception and consolidate his power. Ultimately, Idi Amin governed Uganda just like he governed his own household. He demanded absolute authority, with zero accountability. His decisions were driven by impulse and paranoia. Loyalty was not earned. it was enforced through terror. The entire country became a macrocosm of his private life. Citizens lived in a state of constant uncertainty, never knowing what word or action might bring punishment, disappearance, or death. The nation itself became an extension of the toxic dynamics he created in his own home. One of the most tragic parts of this story is the silence. Many of the women who were directly affected by Amin's rule, who lived through this nightmare, never had the chance to tell their stories. They were silenced by fear, driven into exile, or broken by trauma. Their absence from the history books is, in itself, a powerful statement. Authoritarian systems work by erasing individual suffering, especially the suffering of women. All attention is focused on the grand figure of the ruler, while the lives he destroyed are forgotten. Idi Amin's marriages were not a footnote to his dictatorship. They were a core part of it. They reflected the same sick concentration of power, the same complete absence of accountability, and the same reliance on fear that defined his entire regime. His legacy is not just one of political collapse, economic ruin, and a staggering loss of human life. It's also measured in the personal spaces he twisted and destroyed, the homes where trust disappeared, where relationships were weapons of control, and where even the most intimate moments offered no refuge from the shadow of tyranny. Thanks for watching. If you found this story important, please like this video and subscribe for more deep dives into history's most complex figures. Stay curious.